Raymond Lifestyle hits the lower circuit after a strong debut on the bourses. Shares list at 3,020 rupees, over 99% above the base price. India and Singapore signed 4 MOUs in digital technologies, semiconductors, health, cooperation and skill development as the Prime Minister visits the island nation. Bollywood bites into business. Wooden cutlery maker Zolopack gets pre-IPO investments from big names Amir Khan, Ranbir Kapoor, Karan Johar, Russell Mehta. Shah Rukh Khan becomes the highest tax-paying celebrity in FY 24 by paying 92 crore rupees in tax, while Virat Kohli takes the 5th spot to become the highest tax-paying sportsperson, while Salman Khan comes in 3rd with a payout of 72 crore rupees. Good evening and welcome. You're watching Profit 360 on NDTV Profit, and I'm Nupur Talwar Suri. Now, the markets closed in the red today as they mirrored the global markets, which ended lower earlier in the day. And Neeraj Shah takes us through all that action.
A quiet kind of a day, but for the broader end of the spectrum, because while the Nifty did what it did and just about 0.21% lower, the small cap index was, if not roaring, at least doing very well, about 1% higher. So relatively doing very well for itself. Not too much of changes on the wicks or otherwise, so not going into that. Let's get the heat map up on the screen and show you what moved and what not. So a lot of pain, or not a lot of pain, but significant amount of pull back into FMCG, into life insurance, into Reliance, into pharma. So that set of stocks was correcting. By the way, pharma had a curious behavior. While the Nifty pharma names came off, the CDMO companies like Laurus, Syngene, etc. did reasonably well for themselves. What did do well, on the Nifty at least, Titan, strong move there, Macquarie note, a Nuvama note, LTI, Mindtree, Wipro, etc. Infosys brought IT into flavor as well. On the small cap side, there were enough and more movers. So while Zomato stood out as one key gainer on the JP Morgan note, there were stocks like KC International, Honasa, Amber Enterprises, PVR Inox had a good day. What didn't do well, the likes of Raymond after Raymond Lifestyle listing, this one is corrected. Weakness in Chambal Fert, Amara Raja, Angel One, etc. Just a couple of stocks that I do want to highlight. Gujarat Fluorochem had a brilliant day of trade. Shot up in trade, stayed about 10-11% higher. A lot of talk about how there might be fundraising at a subsidiary level. So Gujarat Fluoro was 11.5% higher. Like I said, Zomato was doing well. So that's good move. Ola Electric was a good mover as well. So those 2 or 3 names really stood out at the broader end of the spectrum in today's session. Not too many notable losers, because the day at the large cap end, yes, was quiet, but at the mid cap and the small cap end certainly belonged to the gainers.
Now, meanwhile, Pratik Agarwal, MD and CEO of Motilal Oswal Asset Management, said that India has received more consistent foreign inflows versus China, largely driven by impressive market growth.
One shall find that while in India, FPIs have sometimes come, sometimes gone, but versus other countries, we have got more consistent inflows. Now, FPIs as a basket, I mean, if you think of emerging market funds, as of now are a very difficult sell. I don't think the pool of money in emerging market funds is really expanding at a fast clip. So it is, reallocation of monies that are happening. So in Feb to, I think April, May kind of a period, Chinese market moved up 30% and monies moved there, and we saw outflows. After the Chinese market consolidated, moved down a bit, things again normalized for us.
And good news, India has overtaken China in the MSCI EM IMI index to become the largest weightage according to Morgan Stanley. Now, the rise can be a sign of exuberance, but is also due to fundamental factors. The brokerage also expects it to be a trigger for foreign inflows. Rucha is joining us and has more details on this. So, Rucha, definitely more good news coming in as far as this is concerned. We've already, of course, been keeping a watch on India overtaking China.
You're right, Nupur. India is set to become the largest emerging countries in the entire world. Now, talking about MSCI EM IM, that is Emerging Market Investable Market Index, India has the largest weight in this kind of index. Now, moving on, we'll see that Morgan Stanley has come out with a note. But before that, let me highlight that India has beaten China with the largest weight in this kind of index. Now, in the MSCI August review, India was just a few points away from China to back this position, and now India has become has gained the largest weight and is set to become the largest emerging market. But moving on to what is the MSCI Emerging Market IM Index, basically it's the Emerging Market Investable Market Index. It has around 24 countries in the index, and India is beating all of those emerging market countries. But moving on, Morgan Stanley has come out with a note wherein it mentions both the good side, the good news, and the bad news as well. Talking about good news, we have rising weight which will attract more foreign inflows is what Morgan Stanley believes. But then what is happening over here is foreign investors are waiting for a correction to happen in the Indian markets, and even a slightest bit of correction is attracting the domestic inflows, and hence domestic inflows are outbidding foreign inflows. Another key point, as we can see over here, is that India is gaining share in the global GDP as well as in the global market. So these two are the good news which the brokerage house is mentioning about. But moving on to the bad news, the brokerage house believes that correction is round the corner always in this kind of a bull run market. Looking at the history, China was underperforming after it became the most emerging market. However, the brokerage house also believes that this could not likely be the case in terms when India is considered, because India's bull run is backed by fundamental factors. And as we can see, India is, as I told, India is the highest weightage, and it's set to become the emerging market. All this is because of the fundamental factors behind the bull run. So all in all, India is a top pick for Morgan Stanley. Moving on, Morgan Stanley believes that there is still more room for bull markets to happen in the future. It also believes that correction could be on the way, but it could only drive money to come inwards to the Indian equity markets only if a correction would happen in the future. And lastly, it also believes that a bull market is possible in the future, and there is more room for Indian equity markets to have more weightage in the MSCI EM IM index. So all in all, India performed very well, outpacing China in terms of weightage in the MSCI Emerging Market Index. Back to you.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us and breaking that down for us. Moving on, the RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das has backed the India growth story while speaking to NDTV Profit at a joint conference organized by FICCI and the Indian Banks Association called FIBAC 2024. He said that he's optimistic about the growth of the economy.
I have given the reasons on the basis of which I am saying that we are quite optimistic about 7.2%. I have given out the reasons. Different people have different views, and I have given out our view. So what do I don't want to add anything more to that.
The governor also said that private sector needs to step up their investments in a big way to sustain India's economic growth.
Investment remains critical for sustainable growth of the economy, and given the current confluence of favorable factors, it is time for the private corporate sector to also come forward in a big way. There are signs of private sector investment happening in a number of sectors as I listed out, but I think the scope can be more, and it is for the private sector players to really take their own call. I'm no one to give advice on this issue, but from a regulator's perspective and from the perspective of where our economy stands, from the perspective of the opportunities that lie ahead, from the perspective of the outlook that we have ahead of us, I think it is time also for the private sector to ponder, to consider, and step up their investment in their respective businesses.
Now, the Union Minister for Road Transport and Highways, Nitin Gadkari, has dampened EV makers' hopes on subsidies. He said that electric vehicles won't need subsidies to promote sales. Now, according to him, the future of electric vehicles lies in technology. He also added that the EV sector has reached a point that it can be driven by consumer interest and does not need government incentives. Now, Raymond Lifestyle, the newly demerged arm of Raymond, made a strong debut on the BSE and National Stock Exchange, but the shares quickly faced selling pressure after opening at 3,000 rupees on the BSE, 99.5% above its base price of 1,503.3 rupees. The stock plunged 5%, hitting lower circuit shortly after listing on the NSE. Shares followed a similar trend, debuting at 3,020 with a 93% premium, but falling sharply soon after. Now, the demerger is part of Raymond's strategy focus on lifestyle, real estate and engineering, with investors receiving 4 RLL shares for every 5 Raymond shares held. Now, despite a strong start, the stock faced significant sell-offs, leading to a rapid price drop. Well, with plans for over 800 stores in 3 years, Sunil Kataria of Raymond sees significant potential for investors in Raymond Lifestyle. Here's what he told us.
We are maybe the only business in this space which gives the opportunity to investors to invest behind 4 verticals at the same time. One is a core branded fabric business which has been there for almost 100 years now. We have taken our EBITDA margins to a record 20% plus, which is almost like a FMCG EBITDA margin, and that can be a comparative indicator in mind while putting valuation to it. Another business that has transformed really in the last 2 years, the branded apparel business, where again we've reached a EBITDA margin of good double digits, and the business has grown at a very high pace, and that's where we're talking of another 800 plus stores over the next 3 years. So the headroom to grow is immense for us there in terms of both revenue and then improvement on EBITDA margins.
Now, moving on to the food delivery space, Zomato's direct competitor Swiggy has now posted a revenue of more than 11,000 crore rupees, with a 44% reduction in losses in FY25. Now, earlier this year, Swiggy had filed draft papers for a potential $1.2 billion IPO. Rishab Baga from NDTV Profit now joins us to share more details about this. So, Rishab, take us through the latest that we're hearing on this.
The financials for Swiggy coming in for FY24, what this gives us is a broad picture into also the food delivery market in India, and also when Swiggy actually heads for an IPO, we get a nice sense of what the financial health of this company is, right? Down to numbers, we're seeing that Swiggy has posted a revenue of about 11,250 crores. That is up about 36% from the previous fiscal year. We're seeing that losses are down almost 45% to just about 2,350 crores for this company. Its monthly transacting users have come in at over a crore. About 1.4 crore users are logging into Swiggy every month. And what we're also seeing that across its businesses, which includes dining out, Instamart, the gross order value has risen to about 35,000 crores. Those are massive numbers coming in from Swiggy. More importantly, what Swiggy has managed to do is keep its expenses under check. Expenses have risen only about 8% and now stand at roughly 14,000 crores. Now, what Swiggy has going ahead is that there is already a listed rival, Zomato, on the exchanges. So we can simply compare and see what sort of shape Swiggy is in. Zomato's FY24 revenue stood at about 12,961 crores. So Swiggy is getting there in terms of revenue, but the real sort of hammer falls down on the profit bit. Zomato has managed to turn profitable. It has posted a 350 crore profit for FY24, while Swiggy is still at losses of upwards of 2,000 crores. So that's the gap that Swiggy needs to close down on. What we're also seeing is that Swiggy will pose for a valuation of about $12 to $15 billion in its IPO that's coming up soon enough, and it could raise up to about 10,000 crores. So a very interesting future for the food delivery market, and also a hot listing coming up for Swiggy.
All right, thank you for that. Now, ties between India and Singapore got a boost after 4 MOUs were signed. Now, the agenda was to expand partnerships on DPI, AI and semiconductors, amongst other things, of course. And Rishab also has a report on that.
We have at least four crucial pacts that have come out of the Prime Minister's visit to Singapore. Those are in the field of digital technology, semiconductors, healthcare, as well as talent and skill development. Just to take you through all those four, these were signed by ministers including Ashwini Vaishnav, Jayant Chaudhary, as well as JP Nadda. So that's the IT Minister, the Skill and HRD Minister, as well as the Health Minister. So the key pact, however, that came out of this was the semiconductor one. This sort of facilitates a lot of Singaporean companies to actually come into India, invest and set up their manufacturing bases for semiconductors and chips right here in India. What we also had was India certain to collaborate with Singapore's with its Singaporean counterpart. Now, CERTAIN is the computer emergency response team that is sort of responsible for any hacks and any sort of vulnerabilities that happen in India's digital systems, especially in the government systems. It is CERTAIN that steps in and stops all of that from happening. So Singapore will sort of collaborate with India to benefit Indian ecosystem for that. What we also have is collaborations in the field of DPIs, cybersecurity, 5G, supercomputing, quantum computing, as well as artificial intelligence.
Now, Shah Rukh Khan has topped the list of the highest taxpayers in India for FY24, contributing 92 crore rupees in taxes. Following him is Tamil actor Thalapathy Vijay, who paid 80 crore rupees, while Salman Khan ranks third with 75 crore rupees. The veteran actor Amitabh Bachchan is fourth with 71 crore rupees. Cricketer Virat Kohli takes the fifth spot by paying 66 crore rupees. Now, interestingly, Akshay Kumar, who was the highest taxpayer in the previous year, is absent from this year's list, raising questions about his financial performance following a series of less successful films. And staying with Bollywood, guess where Amir Khan, Ranbir Kapoor, Karan Johar and Russell Mehta have invested in. The Pune-based Zolopack, a leader in sustainable disposable packaging products, gets pre-IPO backing from Bollywood stars and more top investors. Rishab joins us for this one as well.
As the SME IPO buzz sort of grips the nation, we have Bollywood also investing into SME IPOs. The latest one is Zolopack, which is an NSE Emerge IPO bound company. It has received investor interest from Bollywood stars like Amir Khan, Ranbir Kapoor and Karan Johar. It is also being invested into by Russell Mehta, who is the father of Shloka Mehta, who is now married to Akash Ambani as well. What Zolopack does, it is a sustainable packaging company. It is mainly into manufacturing of ice cream spoons, ice cream sticks, and also wooden cutlery. And hence, some of the major clients it has include Amul and Mother Dairy. A bit on the IPO itself, they are looking to raise upwards of about 40 crores from the IPO. They will sell about 53 lakh shares. This is a pure fresh issue IPO that is coming up on the NSE Emerge segment. While we don't have the details of how much Amir and Ranbir have invested, we do know that about 34.5 crores is the worth of the pre-IPO round in total. And we don't know because the RHP has not been submitted to the SEBI yet. So a listing for Zolopack is possible only in October or November. What we're also seeing is that Amir Khan and Ranbir Kapoor especially also invested in Dronacharya, which was a company that listed a few months back on the SME IPO segment. Apart from that, moving to the main board, we also had Katrina Kaif and Alia Bhatt come in as investors to Nykaa, and they also sort of reaped a lot of profits from that. So with this SME IPO buzz, we'll continue to see more and more, and it is interesting to track how these smaller companies sort of get into the big leagues and also attract investor sort of this buzz from even larger actors like Ranbir Kapoor and Amir Khan.
Now, today on Teachers' Day, a day to show our appreciation for the vital role that teachers play in our lives. This role is perhaps even more vital when we consider education as the accessible and absolute right of every child. Now, teachers are at the forefront of making education accessible and inclusive. As part of the Samarth by Hyundai initiative in partnership with NDTV, that means creating an inclusive learning environment where children with different disabilities can participate fully in the educational process to reach their full potential. On Teachers' Day, we visit teachers of the Amar Jyoti School for Inclusive Education who are also caregivers, innovators and friends.
There can be no greater tribute to the educational institution that shaped you as a child than returning to the same place to continue doing that for other children. And that is what Preeti is doing at the Amar Jyoti School for Inclusive Education.
जब मैं धीरे बड़ी हुई, ग्रो अप किया और मैं निकली, तो जब मैं निकली तो इनफैक्ट जब मैं फैमिली के साथ चली थी तो उस टाइम लोग मुझे बहुत घूर घूर के देखते थे. इनफैक्ट मुझे मतलब बॉनी, ड्रॉप, नाटी ये सब वर्ड्स बोलती थी. बाय द ग्रेस ऑफ गॉड मुझे धीरे हिम्मत आई तो मैंने अमर ज्योति स्कूल से अपना स्पेशल एजुकेशन बीएड इन स्पेशल एमआर में किया.
Preeti is one of the 5 former students of the Amar Jyoti Institute of Physiotherapy in Delhi, formerly called the Amar Jyoti School, who have returned as teachers to give back and pay forward.
मुझे एक दिन इसी स्कूल अमर ज्योति स्कूल से उमा मैम का कॉल आता है कि आप प्रीति राजो आप यहाँ पे आइए. तो फिर मैं उमा मैम के पास गई. मैम ने बोला कि बेटा आप कल से आ जाइए. मेरे बहुत बड़ी अचीवमेंट थी कि आप जिस कैंपस में पढ़ते हो और वहीं की आपके डायरेक्टर आपको कॉल करके बुलाती है और विदाउट इंटरव्यू आपको सिर्फ बोलती है कि आपको सिर्फ ज्वाइन करना है. वो मेरे बहुत गोल्डन मोमेंट था कि हाँ. तो मैं फिर नेक्स्ट डे से मैं आई और तब से कर अब तक मैं यहीं पर हूँ.
They embody the philosophy of the institute that education has to be about more than literacy. It has to be about helping students live productive lives beyond the classroom.
My inspiration behind this was attitude of people in society towards persons with disability. As an educator, I thought the best way to change this attitude is through education, and hence I thought of inclusive education, which would have been incomplete if we didn't look at it as a holistic approach. I personally feel for this, special educators are very, very important.
The special educators at Amar Jyoti follow that principle every day with innovative teaching methods that seek to nurture the skills of every child based on their specific disability. Whether it is helping enhance fine motor skills and attention abilities, or individualized learning plans, assistive technologies that support the learning, or then therapy services to overcome physical and communication barriers. It is that kind of empathetic, encouraging, accessible, all-embracing and inclusive education ecosystem that the Samarth by Hyundai initiative in partnership with NDTV seeks to create. To that end, workshops were conducted in schools across India that reached more than 50,000 students. In fact, workshops were attended not just by students, but also teachers, counselors and principals who are all the drivers of the inclusive education that every child must receive. Teaching is more than a job. It is a great responsibility. As we commemorate Teachers' Day, let's remember to thank all our special educators who have created a supportive, accepting and inclusive learning experience for all their students, helping them reach their potential and empowering them. Because the disabilities that some of us carry should not define what we can or cannot do.
अपने सभी टीचर्स का दिल से धन्यवाद कहना चाहूँगा।
And how did a 22-year-old from Dibrugarh in Assam and his partner manage to rip off 2,200 crore rupees from investors and get away with it for 3 years? We bring you a special show on the 2,200 crore stock scam menace at 6 this evening, so do stay tuned. Well, that's all we have time for right now on Profit 360. Thank you for joining us, and do stay with us for more.